Welcome to the Total Boss Podcast, and I'm your host, Christiano Green, a podcast where we talk about finding fulfillment through self-development, being a leader of your own life, and getting the most out of it as well. Tenacity, originality, talent, authenticity, and being legendary. It's all about living your best life. Hello, all you total bosses out there, and welcome to another episode of the Total Boss Podcast. I am your host, Christiano Green, and I am a gay men's relationship coach, helping gay men find long-lasting and healthy relationships in their life. So this week on the podcast, I wanted to jump in and talk about porn and how porn can become an addiction. And for so many gay men, it does become an addiction that is definitely untreated and often uneven realized as the reason and the root cause for a lot of problems in your life and your relationships or your sexual encounters. So really, obviously, as we know, for gay men, porn can really be a staple in our lives. You know, for many of us, it was really our first introduction to exploring our sexuality. And then for many of us, it was our only outlet for many, many years. So really, it's no wonder that porn can give us unrealistic expectations for what we want and need out of a sexual and then, loving partner as well. Porn addiction really refers to a person who becomes emotionally dependent on pornography to the point that it kind of interferes with their daily life, their relationships, and, their ability to function. This type of addiction, may be quite common. And some doctors do consider porn addiction to be a hypersexual disorder, an umbrella term that includes behaviors such as excessive masturbation as well. So, what happens is we kind of get turned on by, these men who we watch on in these porn movies, who we seem perfect, who've got crazy, passionate sex lives, and it just all seems natural and intense, right? And, we kind of get an idea of this is the kind of sex that we want to have, this beautiful, passionate, dirty, sometimes sex, right? In reality, though, those porn movies that we are watching are actually from real life actors. And, it can take them hours, if not days, to create, a short movie that we've been watching. So the problem is that the reality is porn is highly addictive, especially for those of us who probably started watching it from young ages, like 13 or 14 or, a pubescent kind of stage, right? And we get really used to it doing the job. We really get to select what we want to watch and when we want to watch it. So, a lot of us will have certain fantasies that we get to play out. You quite quickly end up down a rabbit hole wondering, how did it come this far? Obviously there's so many fantasies out there. People have fantasies around straight men, around older men, around people from different backgrounds, from just, different scenes, in school or, in the gym, all these different fantasies that people get to play out because of these movies, right? And that turns them on and then leads to, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. So really understanding that sometimes this can lead to, an addiction that can affect you in other areas of our life, right? I personally struggled with a porn addiction for most of my life. I started watching porn when I was, 13, 14 years of age. Initially, I'd go in and steal my brother's, pornography and start, watching all the men there, right? And then, as, I was able to figure out the internet, I started seeing things that way as well. And that's when I turned into gay porn use, right? So, over 90%, I think, of gay men use porn on a consistent basis. And they've shown in studies that porn is just as addictive as heroin. So what it does when they show you the brain scans of people who are, on porn and on heroin, they're very similar. The way that the things show up leads to this addiction being happening. And sometimes it almost feels like, how did that just happen? Because that's what addiction is like. It's like maybe you didn't want to do it today, but somehow you got into a pattern in your brain and it led to you just taking a quick look, maybe a quick glance, and then boom, you've gone down the path of masturbating and ejaculating, and maybe then feeling some shame or guilt around it. Because oftentimes people can tie their shame and guilt around the addiction or porn in general, and it leaves you feeling worse off. Sometimes it's there to release anxiety or stress or whatever way we use it, right? So many people use it for many things. Some people, can't go to sleep without it, so they use it to go to sleep. So many use it for so many different things, right? And obviously it can really hold us back from relationships and connecting to others on a sexual level. Like I said, I used it for over 20 years, and it was the one constant in my life when it came to my sexual experiences and sexualities, because, I had such ideas of what sex was like that when I had those random hookups, it was never the same way, or very rarely was it anywhere near that. And so for me to go home and get myself into that kind of a state and get off in such a way, I would use porn. And so many people use porn, which affected me from going out and having dates and partners and whatnot, because again, I was so caught up in this is how it should be, and using this to get me off in my mind, which was continually feeding the addictions, right? Now, obviously, it can have us, expecting perfection from our sexual endeavors or sexual partners. And it can also have you feeling inadequate, right? 1 in 3 men report having performance anxiety issues relating to sex because of the expectations they have of themselves due to porn, right? So that could be struggling with erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation and not being able to satisfy a partner, right? So these are usually what it is, because again, we have all these expectations of what sex is going to be from being, into porn, etc., right? And so many people don't even realize that they're having a problem when it comes to porn, because the majority of men utilize porn. It's such a common thing. It's part of people's daily life sometimes, right? And it's kind of ingrained into society as a thing that people do. People have little wee-wees, so they masturbate, right? And it's kind of like that, right? So people don't realize how big of a problem it can be. And oftentimes the problems that are happening in life, they blame other things. So they might blame themselves, or they might blame people they are dating or, having sex with as to where the problem lies. When in fact, a lot of the time the problem is us and our addiction that we have, right? So really, if we look at it, what are some signs that you have, got a porn addiction, right? So number one is you probably can't stop. You're unable to stop using or viewing pornography despite maybe trying to do so. So if you can't stop, you may notice that you are spending more and more time on the internet despite others' attempts to maybe communicate with you. This is something that could be common. Maybe it's a daily occurrence. Maybe it's multiple times a day, right? You want more, right? That's another sign. You may experience cravings to view more or feel cravings if you've gone without porn for any amount of time. You may find yourself sneaking away from your partner to another room. It's possible that you'll give an excuse or get defensive when questioned about your behavior, right? Another one, you've lost time. You may lose large periods of time by viewing porn, wasting most of the day without accomplishing anything. You can notice that you've become lethargic and haven't accomplished much as of late. You may seem like you don't care, or that you are very uninterested in anything else, right? Another one is that you're uninterested, or you've lost interest in sex. So if you're addicted to porn, you'll likely lose that interest in real sex. Not only that, but you may find your partner less attractive than you did before. You might become unresponsive to romantic advances from your partner. This can cause your partner to view as a distant or even uninterested when they try to engage with you sexually. You may require more stimulation than you had previously needed in order to become aroused. This is a common one, right? And this is where it comes into it, where you've got a problem within your relationship as well, not just within yourself. It's a problem that's happening outside of it. Maybe your partner's starting to think of themselves as not attractive or not sexual, and, is there other problems? What's going on? Is he cheating on me? These are the things, right? And in some ways you are cheating on them if you're constantly doing this behind their back and they don't know about it, and this is how you engage with your sexuality as well, and your sexual side, right? Another sign is you're more demanding. A porn addiction may cause you to develop some real unrealistic ideas about sex, and you might become more demanding in the bedroom. You might find yourself easily frustrated and or begin alienating your partner. And when this happens, your partner can probably feel physically and emotionally uncomfortable, right? So it becomes an uncomfortable thing for them, right? And I'm sure you don't want to put your partners in uncomfortable positions, right? Another one, you've lost attraction. Porn addiction can give you those unrealistic expectations of beauty for your partners, right? Like I said, everyone's perfect, everyone's godlike, everyone, if they're not, you can flick to the next movie and find one that is exactly the specimen that you are wanting it to be, right? So this can make your partner feel hurt about their appearance and create a greater problem for their self-esteem as well. Another one could be that you're in physical pain. You may begin to experience physical pain as a result of porn addiction. This can be from the repetition of certain physical movements for long periods of time, or from the strain that comes from excessive computer use. You might also frequently complain about your wrists, your neck, your back, or might experience even headaches, right? These are common things that can happen that maybe you're not aware of, right? This is about bringing awareness to you today. Another one, you could be spending lots of money and even losing money, right? Of course, it's possible that you've really started to spend money for what you consider higher quality content. When this happens, you can quickly begin falling into some kind of financial hardship, which is happening. Like I said, gambling addictions, alcohol addictions, drug addictions, people can get into financial hardship. Same with porn, right? You've got, OnlyFans, you've got so many different porn sites around here, people to subscribe to. And, if you're using this all the time on a daily basis, you're going to be paying for things. That happened to me. I spent a lot of money on things, even though there were free sites. I would get, be in a bonnet about someone and I'd want to, see more and on all this stuff. And so you'd go down a rabbit hole onto their OnlyFans, etc., right? These are things that have happened and common, and you might be relating to this. This can also manifest as you're complaining more about money problems, but being unwilling to disclose the exact nature of these problems, right? I speak to so many people about their finances and where they're at with their money, and people's biggest problem is that they're spending things, behind their concept and not really putting it out on the table that this is what they're spending money on because they're ashamed of it, right? Another sign is that you get distracted. If you find yourself distracted from different aspects of life, it might have something to do with porn addiction. Your mind might drift to porn when you're with friends, family, or coworkers, and this can significantly impact personal and professional life. And it can make you distant from your partner and their attempts to connect with you as well. Another sign could be that you're angry. Like with any addiction, if you can't stop using porn, you may become easily irritable when it's not available. You may find your patience wearing thin, especially with tasks you view as obstacles to porn use. So this can also make it easier to lash out at your partner, your friends, people in your life who could notice major changes in your personality and feel that you're not the same person that they had loved before. So these are some of the real common things that come up that you should be able to be aware of that are happening. Some other things is that, you might find that sex is less satisfying. And, it's affecting you in all areas of your life. So it's affecting you in your own self, with your self-worth. It's affecting you in your health because you're mentally and physically maybe not doing some things because you might be spending way too time or doing so much porn. It can affect your finances. You can spend so much money on things like that, right? It can also lead to and be tied to other things like sex and alcohol and drugs, right? Because a lot of times when you get high on things, your body does different things chemically, and so it can lead to more use of it. So if you're also suffering from drug use and alcohol problems, maybe this could be tied to pornography as well, or sex, right? So have a look and see what else is showing up for you as well. Right? You might notice that it's also a problem in your relationships, your friendships, because you might be disengaged. You might be more caught up in this. It also, people use pornography to cope with sadness, with grief, with anxiety, with insomnia, with other mental health issues, right? So really it's about understanding, are you using this to avoid those other things and maybe cope in a certain way? And owning it is the key, right? So don't look at it and go, oh my God, I'm seeing all these things and this is me and I'm fucked and blah, blah, blah. You're not. You've got to realize that this is the awareness that we're trying to give you here today. If you're struggling with this is a huge problem that not many people are aware of. Like I said, over 90% of people use this on a consistent basis. Now that doesn't mean that everyone has an addiction to it. That's not what I'm saying. But if it's a problem and you're avoiding really understanding that it's a problem because you're putting it onto something else, like I said, you've got to start to come back and go, maybe these realizations is what I need to hear in order for me to take a step forward and do something about it, right? I've dealt with many addictions myself, and so I've helped many clients through it, right? I've dealt with, alcohol and drugs and sex and porn and food and, bad behaviors and all of the different things, right? So dealing with it, it's not something that we can't sort out, but owning it and figuring out a pathway forward by really understanding why it's a problem in your life and then what you want to do about it. So really, like I said, it can have a lot of psychological and physical problems that lead to your performance sexually. And this is just about understanding what it can do to you. And if you want to work on getting off it, how that's going to affect you as well. Because really, getting off it can be the hardest thing. Because again, it's like I said, as addictive as heroin, but it comes down to making a choice and being active in it and maybe getting some people on board. If you're in a relationship, talking to your partner about it and being open and honest that this is something that you need to go through as well, right? You need to talk about it so that they can help you. Having something else to do instead, realizing that you're probably going to have some moments of agitation. You're going to get frustrated. It's going to be hard for the first period, but then, it'll get easier and easier as it goes through. But again, finding someone to talk to, like I said, for me, I've got people in my life that I talk to that are my coaches and whatnot, and I help people who deal with addiction. So, talking to someone else is going to be helpful for you as well, so that you can understand what you need to do in order to get it sorted out in your life. So if you're suffering from a porn issue, or you're realizing that some of these things are related to you, feel free to reach out to me, send me a message, ask me some questions, tell me your story so I can help you or lead you in the right direction so that we can move past porn and really make life a lot more happier for you, your relationship a lot more happier for you, or finding a partner a lot more easier for you, right? Oftentimes what we said, we're avoiding different parts of our life, and when we can really stop putting this as the avoidance strategy or the coping strategy, we can get to the real problem and actually deal with it, and then you can have a better relationship with your sexuality, a better relationship with your sexual partners or your partner in general, and then see how it affects that and changes your relationships as well moving forward. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I trust it's valuable for you. I'll be back next week with another episode. And always remember that you have got this and I've got you. Bye for now.